Imagine a love story that started with a leap.
I'm in love.
Tom Cruise, the Hollywood icon, bouncing on Oprah's couch, declaring his devotion to Katie Holmes in a moment that captivated the world. But behind the fairy tale romance lurked a chilling reality. Whispers of a gilded cage, a marriage shadowed by Scientology's iron grip, secret calls to Nicole Kidman, burner phones stashed in hidden corners, and spies tracking her every step. For years, Katie stayed silent, her life a mystery wrapped in fear. Now, at 46, she's breaking free, ready to unveil the nightmare that nearly broke her. What dark secrets did she bury? What really happened behind those locked doors? Stick around, because this is the untold story of Katie Holmes. Katie Holmes grew up in Toledo, Ohio. She was the youngest of 5 children in a close-knit Catholic family. Even before Hollywood, she stood out at Notre Dame Academy, a private all-girls school. She kept a perfect 4.0 GPA. She was also active in theater and performed in plays at nearby all-boys schools. In 1996, she scored 1310 out of 1600 on the SAT. That was a top score, high enough to get her accepted into Columbia University. Her father, who was a lawyer and had played basketball at Marquette University, hoped she would study medicine. Katie did attend Columbia, but only for a summer photography course. Acting was already pulling her in a different direction. It all started in 1992, when she was just 14. She signed up for a local modeling school in Toledo that led to her attending the International Modeling and Talent Association competition in New York in 1996. It was her first real step into the industry. She had no acting experience and no connections, but her natural talent stood out. She got signed by a talent agent right after the event. That same year, she filmed an audition tape in her basement. Her mother read the other parts while Katie performed. That tape would change everything. She sent it off to casting agents while finishing high school. One of the tapes landed on the desk of director Ong Lee. He was casting for The Ice Storm, a film starring Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver. Katie was offered the role of Libet's Casey in early 1997. She was on set with major stars making her film debut before she had even graduated high school. Her audition wasn't flashy. It was a quiet monologue from To Kill a Mockingbird, but there was something honest about it. Hollywood took notice soon after she was asked to audition for a new TV show called Dawson's Creek. The show's creator, Kevin Williamson, was looking for someone who felt real. Katie couldn't fly to Los Angeles because she had a school play, so she sent another basement tape. It arrived during spring break in 1997. When producers saw it, they immediately said that's Joey Potter. Dawson's Creek premiered in January 1998. Katie played Joey from the first episode to the last in 2003. She was the only cast member in all 128 episodes. Joey was a smart and stubborn girl dealing with real problems like her mother's death and her father's arrest. Katie gave the role depth and strength. Her character's romance with Pacey Witter became one of the most talked-about TV relationships of the early 2000s. In 2012, TV Guide included Joey and Pacey on its list of best TV couples. Katie's work on the show brought her mainstream fame. She was nominated for multiple Teen Choice Awards. She appeared on the covers of 17 Rolling Stone and TV Guide. One Rolling Stone article said that teenage girls would scream the second they saw her. She once said her academic background helped her with the complex lines on the show. Some words were so advanced that she had to look them up in a dictionary before filming. That discipline and focus carried over into her personal life. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise was born in 1962 in Syracuse, New York. His full name was Thomas Cruise Mpather IV. From the start, his life was far from easy. By the time he turned 14, he had already attended 15 different schools. He moved constantly between the United States and Canada. He never stayed in one place long enough to build real friendships. The reason behind all this movement was his father, Thomas Cruise Mpather III. He was an electrical engineer who had trouble keeping a job. Cruise would later call his father a merchant of chaos. He said his childhood was full of both physical and verbal abuse. When Cruise was 12 years old, his mother, Mary Lee Pfeiffer, decided she had enough. She was a special education teacher. One day, she took her 4 children and left her husband. They started over. On top of all this, Cruise had dyslexia. Reading was difficult. School felt like a constant uphill battle. He struggled with low grades, and low confidence. Still, he found comfort in sports. He loved wrestling and trained hard. It gave him a goal to focus on, but then he injured his knee. That ended his chance to keep competing. Eventually, things became more stable when his family settled in Glen Ridge, New Jersey. That's where Cruise discovered something new. He joined a school play and everything changed. But before that moment, he was actually thinking about becoming a priest. In 1976, when he was just 14, he enrolled in St. Francis Seminary in Cincinnati, Ohio. He had been moved by a speech from a priest named Father Rick Schneider. Cruise took it seriously. He went to chapel, listened to the priests, and spent time learning about faith. His friend Shane Dempler remembered that Cruise had strong beliefs and saw priesthood as a real path. But that plan came to a quick end. Cruise and Dempler were caught stealing bottles of liquor from the priests. They hid them in the woods, but other kids found the stash, got drunk, and were caught. The school didn't expel Cruise outright. Instead, they sent a letter to his family saying they liked the boys but thought it was best if they didn't return. After that, Cruise returned to regular school. One day, he got the role of Nathan Detroit in a school production of Guys and Dolls. That performance lit a spark. The crowd clapped, people praised him. He felt something he had never felt before. Acting gave him a purpose. By the time he was 18, he made a big decision. With support from his mother and stepfather, he dropped out of high school. He moved to New York City in 1980 to chase a dream. He had no connections and no money. He took a job as a busboy. To survive, he cleared tables and worked long hours while going to auditions. Soon after he moved to Los Angeles, things started to shift. He got signed by Creative Artists Agency, one of the biggest talent agencies in Hollywood. In 1981, he landed his first film role in Endless Love with Brooke Shields. That same year, he had a bigger part in Taps. Then came The Outsiders in 1983. That role brought more attention. Later that year, he starred in Risky Business. The scene of him dancing in a shirt and underwear became famous overnight. It turned him into a star. By 1986, he reached another level with Top Gun. It became the highest-grossing movie of the year. People around the world knew his name, and he kept climbing. In 2006, Premiere Magazine named him Hollywood's most powerful actor. Forbes called him the most powerful celebrity in the world. Now Cruise has a reported net worth of $600 million. His movies have earned more than $12 billion worldwide. But behind the success is a story of struggle: a boy who moved too often, a student who could barely read, a teenager who once wanted to be a priest, a busboy who dreamed of more, and an actor who refused to give up. At the start of the 2000s, Katie Holmes and Chris Klein were two of the brightest stars in young Hollywood. She was famous for playing Joey on Dawson's Creek. He was best known for American Pie. They started dating in 2000. Even though they lived in different states and worked on separate projects, their relationship lasted almost 5 years. Holmes filmed in North Carolina. Klein stayed in California. Still, they made time for each other. In December 2003, after dating for 3 years, Klein proposed. The engagement was announced and seemed solid. In 2002, Holmes told People magazine that even though they didn't see each other much, they made the most of their time together. But things slowly began to change. In March 2005, they ended the engagement. Holmes' publicist confirmed the breakup to Us Weekly and said they would remain friends. Later, Klein talked about the split in one interview with Daily Beast. He said they were both successful and having fun during a fast-moving time in their lives. He also told People that when the excitement of their young careers started to settle, their relationship began to shift too. Only weeks later, Katie was seen with someone new. In April 2005, she was photographed in Rome with Tom Cruise. It was their first public appearance as a couple. People magazine reported they had been dating for only a few weeks. What made the timing more surprising was something Katie had said less than a year earlier. In July 2004, she told 17 magazine that she used to think she would marry Tom Cruise. It sounded like a childhood dream, but now it was becoming real. Then came a moment that no one could forget. On May 23, 2005, Tom Cruise appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show. He was supposed to talk about his new movie War of the Worlds, but when the topic turned to Katie, everything changed. Cruise jumped on the couch. He raised his fist in the air. He shouted about being in love.
Something happened to you. Something happened to you. I'm in love.
I'm in love, he said. I met her, and she's extraordinary. The audience cheered. Oprah looked shocked. Later that year, in November 2005, she told Good Morning America that even she couldn't figure out what was going on in that moment. The reaction to the interview was massive. People talked about it for years. Clips were replayed everywhere. Cruise's image shifted overnight. In March 2025, Tim Minke, who had booked the Oprah appearance, spoke at the ICG Publicist Awards. He said he was fired from Paramount after working there for 12 years. He blamed the couch incident, saying long story short of a couch on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Oprah later defended Cruise. She said his excitement was genuine and called the media response unfair. Just weeks after the Oprah moment, Cruise and Holmes took another huge step. On June 16, 2005, while promoting War of the Worlds in Paris, Cruise announced they were engaged. The news came only 7 weeks after their relationship had become public. He told reporters he proposed early that morning at the Eiffel Tower. Holmes sat beside him wearing a large diamond ring. Cruise said he hadn't slept and called it a magnificent day. He said Paris was romantic and that he had never been to the Eiffel Tower before. Reporters asked if it was the most special time he had ever had in Europe. Cruise said yes without hesitation. Even Dakota Fanning, his co-star in War of the Worlds, was there. She said Tom and Katie were the nicest people and that she hoped they would have the happiest marriage. The engagement surprised everyone. Just 3 months earlier, Katie had been engaged to someone else 2 days before the proposal, on June 13, 2005. She also confirmed she was converting to Scientology. At the Batman Begins premiere, she said she was taking courses and had started auditing. In an interview with W Magazine, she said it was exciting and helpful. All of this ending one engagement, starting another, joining a new religion happened in less than 90 days. It made their romance one of the fastest and most talked about relationships in Hollywood. Then came another milestone. On April 18, 2006, exactly 1 year after their first public appearance, Katie gave birth to their daughter, Suri. The baby was born at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica. She weighed 7 pounds and was 20 inches long. Holmes' pregnancy had been announced back on October 6, 2005. Cruise's spokesperson had said they were very excited. Even before she was born, Suri was already in the headlines. Cruise had bought a sonogram machine to keep at home. That raised questions from doctors and the public. After Suri's birth, the couple kept her out of the spotlight for 6 months. No one saw her. Then, in October 2006, she appeared on the cover of Vanity Fair. That issue sold over 70,000 copies. In the interview, Cruise said they had picked the name Suri before they knew the baby's gender. He said the name meant red rose in Persian. He added that finding out the meaning later was just a bonus. Tom Cruise's journey into Scientology started in a quiet but life-changing way. In late 1985 or early 1986, he began dating actress Mimi Rogers. She was the daughter of a devoted Scientologist and introduced Tom to the religion early. In their relationship, they got married in May 1987, but while the marriage was short-lived, the introduction to Scientology left a lasting mark. Years later, former Scientology executive Marty Rathbun admitted the church played a role in ending the marriage. He said, "I participated in the Mimi divorce," and explained that both Mimi and later Nicole Kidman had grown distant from church leader David Miscavige. Rathbun claimed Miscavige didn't want them around. Mimi later joked that the marriage ended because Tom was thinking of becoming a monk. She said he believed he had to stay celibate to protect his instrument. That was the beginning of a relationship between Cruise and Scientology that has lasted more than 30 years. The world really started paying attention in June 2005. That's when Tom appeared on NBC's Today show for an interview with Matt Lauer. What began as a normal conversation quickly turned into one of the most intense celebrity interviews in TV history. Lauer brought up Tom's comments about Brooke Shields. She had spoken openly about taking antidepressants after giving birth. Tom strongly disapproved. He said there is no such thing as a chemical imbalance and called psychiatry a pseudoscience. When Lauer tried to explain that some people need medication, Tom became more aggressive. He said medication, electric shock therapy, and how Scientology believes in treating the mind without drugs. Nearly 2 decades later, Brooke Shields shared her side of the story in her 2025 memoir. She said Tom came to her house and apologized. He told her he felt cornered by Lauer and lashed out at her instead. Shields accepted the apology, but admitted it wasn't the world's best apology. Tom's boldness came from more than just personal belief. His relationship with David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology, gave him confidence. They met in the late 1980s and became close almost immediately. Miscavige was Tom's best man at his wedding to Nicole Kidman in 1990 and again at his wedding to Katie Holmes in 2006. People inside the church described their bond as intense. They smoked cigars, played tennis, and even went skydiving together. Tom's former chef, Siner Parman, said it was who could outdo the other. He even got DM parachuting with him. Some said Tom saw Miscavige as a role model. The church reportedly gave Cruise his own private villa at its secretive gold base headquarters in California, but not everyone believed the friendship was real. John Brousseau, a former church official, said Miscavige often mocked Cruise behind his back. Others claimed the church kept Tom close because of his fame, his money, and the attention he brought. In January 2008, something happened that changed everything. On January 17th, a 9-minute Scientology video featuring Cruise was leaked online. It had been filmed in 2004, when Cruise received the church's Freedom Medal of Valor. In the video, set to dramatic Mission Impossible music, Tom made bold statements. He said Scientologists were the only ones who could help in an emergency. He claimed they were the true experts on the mind and on drug recovery. The church tried to remove the video by sending copyright takedown notices. They said the clip was a stolen and edited version of a private 3-hour event, but the damage was done. Instead of disappearing, the video exploded online. It sparked ridicule and anger. In response, the hacker group Anonymous launched Project Chronology. They attacked Scientology's websites and released a video that said while all this was happening, another story was unfolding. In April 2005, Tom began dating Katie Holmes. Just 2 months later, on June 13, 2005, Katie announced that she had joined Scientology. She said it at the Batman Begins premiere. The news shocked her friends and family. Katie had been raised Catholic. Her sudden change confused the people who knew her best. Her childhood friend, Harry Somo, said it caused deep rifts in her family. Just 3 days later, Tom proposed. Not long after that, Katie did an interview with W Magazine, but it wasn't a regular interview. A Scientology representative came with her and controlled the questions. That person had the power to block anything they didn't want asked. Katie's words were carefully managed. This wasn't how she used to do press. Scientology's presence in her life was growing fast. Her family became more and more worried. Angela Domschott, a friend from back home, said it was so bizarre. We were all shocked. But when you're besotted with someone, I guess you'll do what they want. Katie's parents were devout Catholics. They didn't like the direction things were heading. Carrie Samo said, I know her parents had an issue with it. I don't think they were very happy. Katie rarely came back to Toledo after that. Her relative, Thomas Higgins, said she used to babysit for us. Now she only comes back for funerals. We only see her on sad occasions. On November 18, 2006, Tom and Katie got married at the Odescalchi Castle in Bracciano, Italy. The castle dated back to the 15th century and had ties to the Borgia family. The wedding was a 3-day event. It began with a dinner at Tom's favorite restaurant in Rome on November 16th. On the wedding day, there were flag bearers in Renaissance outfits and hundreds of candles in the castle's armory. Katie wore an ivory silk gown designed by Giorgio Armani. More than 150 guests attended, including Jim Carrey, Jennifer Lopez, and David Beckham. Andrea Bocelli sang at the reception. They served a 5-tier white chocolate cake. The whole event was a media spectacle, but not everyone saw it as a celebration. Leah Remini, who left the church later on, called the wedding a PR stunt to promote Scientology. She believed the ceremony was as much about the church as it was about the couple. Katie Holmes was living in a world that didn't feel real anymore. Every part of her life was being watched, according to Marty Rathbun, who once held one of the highest positions in Scientology. Before leaving in 2004, Katie was monitored like she was under the Stasi. That was East Germany's secret police. It wasn't just a figure of speech. People around her were always reporting on her. Even Tom Cruise's own staff, including his sisters, were said to be more afraid of Scientology leader David Miscavige than they were of Tom. For 15 years, they passed on every detail of Tom's life to Miscavige. Katie had no privacy. She was always under watch. Her fear grew stronger when she learned that Cruise wanted to send Suri to a Scientology compound called Gold Base. It's located in Gilman Hot Springs, California. The place is huge, about 200 hectares, and is used to train the most loyal members. It's far from the public eye and tightly controlled. That was the final push. Katie decided she had to leave, but it couldn't be rushed. It had to be done in a way that no one saw coming. In mid-June 2012, while she was in China, she started planning her exit. Her team gave her several disposable phones. These burner phones helped her contact her lawyers in New York without anyone tracking the calls. She used the phones for legal advice and also reached out to Nicole Kidman. Nicole had gone through a similar divorce from Cruise in 2001. The two talked more than once. Nicole told her to stay strong and be careful. The phones were swapped out regularly to avoid detection. By the time she called Cruise in Iceland on June 28 to say the marriage was over, she had already hired 3 law firms in 3 different states. Tom didn't see it coming. Neither did the church. Insiders later said this was one of the worst moments in Scientology's history. 2 months before filing, she made another quiet move. She suddenly fired Isabella Cruise from her fashion label Holmes Young. Isabella was Tom's adopted daughter with Nicole Kidman. She had been working closely with Katie and even called her mom. The firing surprised everyone. There had been no sign of conflict, but after the divorce filing the reason became clear. Isabella's presence gave Scientology access to Katie's business and personal life, removing her cutoff, that link. It was a clean break and it was planned. When it came time to file for divorce, Katie chose New York instead of California. That wasn't random. It was a smart legal decision. In California, courts are more likely to allow joint custody. In New York, judges are less flexible. If parents don't agree, the court usually picks one. Katie wanted sole custody of Suri. She knew New York gave her a better chance. Lawyer Joshua Foreman explained that New York courts don't like forcing joint custody. On top of that, Katie was allowed to file with an anonymous case name, keeping things private. In California, everything would have been public. A few weeks earlier, she had even rented an apartment in Manhattan. The reason she gave was privacy. But she was building her case quietly. She didn't do all this alone. In the months leading up to her move, Katie reached out to people who had left Scientology. She connected with people who had seen the system from the inside. One of them was Jenna Miscavige Hill, the niece of David Miscavige. Jenna had left the church and had become a strong critic. David Miscavige Jenna had left the church and had become a strong critic. After the divorce filing, she released a message supporting Katie. She said growing up in Scientology had been mentally and sometimes physically abusive. As a mother, she said she stood with Katie and hoped she stayed strong. Katie also kept in contact with Nicole Kidman. Nicole had lost contact with her adopted kids after her divorce from Cruise. Katie didn't want the same thing to happen with Suri. According to US Weekly, the two had been talking in the weeks before the divorce. Nicole told her to hang in there and said she knew how hard it could be. Nicole told her to hang in there and said she knew how hard it could be. Shockingly, the divorce settled within 11 days of filing. The financial side of the divorce was shaped by a prenup. Holmes didn't receive any spousal support from Cruise's $250 million fortune, but she did secure $400,000 per year for child support. That's around $33,000 every month until Suri turns 18. Over time, that adds up to $4.8 million. Cruise also agreed to pay for all of Suri's medical costs, her school tuition, and any other activities. He even set up a trust fund that Suri could partially access at 18 and fully control in her 30s. More details came out over a year later. On September 9, 2013, Cruise gave a deposition during a lawsuit he had filed against Bauer Publishing. The case was about a $50 million claim over magazine stories that said he had abandoned Suri. In the deposition, he was asked directly if Holmes left him to protect their daughter from Scientology. He answered it was a rare moment where Cruise publicly admitted that his religion played a role in the divorce. He also said he found the question offensive and insisted there was no need to protect Suri from Scientology. But his answer confirmed what many had suspected: Holmes had been involved in the church during their marriage, but left it as soon as she filed for divorce. Cruise also confirmed that Suri was no longer practicing Scientology and that his older children from his marriage to Nicole Kidman had cut ties with Holmes completely. That deposition revealed something else. Court documents filed on November 6, 2013, showed that Cruise had not seen Suri for 110 days after the divorce. He claimed they talked on the phone nearly every day, but during those months he was seen at bars and on vacation. It didn't go unnoticed. People started to question how present he really was in his daughter's life. Another emotional moment came in 2015. On November 3rd, Leah Remini appeared on Good Morning America and talked about Holmes. Remini had spent nearly 30 years in Scientology and left in 2013. Watching Holmes and Suri living freely outside the church moved her deeply. "I'm touched by it," she said, "because I know now she did what she did, leaving Scientology in the way that she did because she had to protect her daughter, which, in a way, connects us now." Her voice cracked as she said it. It was a rare moment of shared understanding between two women who had walked away from the same powerful system. Even before the divorce, Holmes had shown she was willing to stand up for herself. On March 1, 2011, she filed a $50 million libel lawsuit against Star magazine. The tabloid had run a cover story with the headline "Addiction Nightmare Katie Drug Shocker," along with an unflattering photo. Her legal team said the cover suggested she was a drug addict, and it damaged her reputation. The case was settled on April 27, 2011. As part of the agreement, Star published an apology on the front page of its May 9th issue. It said the magazine did not intend to suggest Katie Holmes was a drug addict or was undergoing treatment for drug addiction. The publisher, American Media Inc., also made a donation to Holmes' chosen charity, the Dizzy Feet Foundation, which supports dance education for underprivileged kids.